The four quadrants of change is such a great tool to use in life and organizations when we're looking at the constant change and transformation that's in front of us. And I love it because there are so many different ways to view change. And sometimes we may be talking the word change with other people and talking about something totally different. At the same time, we might know a change needs to be made and miss one of these quadrants, and we actually make a change in the wrong place, and then change doesn't sustain. So, I'm going to explain these four quadrants of change, and I thought I would utilize a mountain biking experience that I had as an example just to take it out of the business context and maybe come back and forth in the business context, just so we get a little bit more of that. So the first quadrant is the individual experience. And in these four quadrants of change, we've got an individual experience on the top, a collective experience across the bottom, and then on the left, the external or the internal world, and on the right, the external world. So if we go to quadrant one, it's really an internal individual experience. This is our mindset, our beliefs, and how we experience the world. And my many, many years doing many different types of change and also just living as a human being, I have found that this can be the most often overlooked uh, quadrant of change and one of the most important. So, what is our belief system? What's going on inside of us? If I utilize mountain biking, this is a great one for me because what happens with me on a mountain bike sometimes has nothing to do with the bike, the terrain, the group I'm with, anything. It has everything to do with where my mindset is, a mindset of fear or a mindset of I can't do this. And then I shift that around. And many times the performance, the change I'm trying to make takes place. This is a fundamental area in coaching that I work on as well, is kind of that inner world and getting access to that inner world. We don't always know what's going on there. The second quadrant is in the external world, but the individual side of things. So it's a what I do. So in this quadrant of change, we can think of it as skills, behaviors, or knowledge. So if I go back to that mountain bike example, it would be, hey, I need to do this specific pedal stroke and do these specific things with my bike in order to get up this rock. That is this individual, like what I do, the skills and behaviors. And this often is what we always, where we try to start when we're trying to make an individual change is let's just change the behavior, change the skill. But a lot of times we can't get to a new skill if we aren't addressing our thoughts and our feelings. And so that is where I've seen this missed a lot. I miss it sometimes too. What do I need to do to shift? Well, a lot of times I have to go inside first, and then I can make that shift. And I see it in organizations and leaders all of the time. Of just tell me what I need to do. I'm going to do these three things, these three easy steps. And it's not always the place to start. Sometimes it is. If we move down to quadrants three and four, these are in the collective. And so we move from the individual into the collective. And so quadrant three is an internal collective experience. So an example in the mountain, using the mountain biking example would be, what is the group doing that I'm riding with? Is the group have the values of supporting one another? Does the group go as fast as they can and leave people behind? Who is the group made up of? What are our agreements as a group together? Similarly, in an organization, it might be, what's our vision? What are our values? What do we experience when we're in this culture? Oftentimes, you can really feel different things when you're in groups or cultures or organizations. And this is one of those too that either is overlooked or we simply think, oh, we've got the visions on the wall, so we've got this covered. And it's just the energetics of human beings that is so, so important and can't be overlooked. And so Quadrant four is similar to quadrant two. It's the place the collective usually goes first when really we need to also look at quadrant three. And quadrant four is the collective action or the collective external experience. So, utilizing the mountain bike example, it would be I have a bike. Here's what kind of bike I have. Here are the exact people that I'm with, and here is where we are going. And so, if we just, let's say this is a change thing, if we change where we're going, is that going to change the outcome that we're looking for? If I change who is in the group, is that going to change? If I change my bike, is that going to change things? In an organization, and especially when I'm looking at organizational change, it seems that organizations will say, hey, we have to change the whole structure, and that's what's going to change things. That's what's going to change our bottom line. Or we must change a process, and that's the first place to look versus what's going on with some of our individuals, what's going on in the collective experience. And that is a really important place to look. And not to say that process changes, structure changes, product changes, or using my mountain bike example, bike changes are important. It's just we might want to consider what other quadrant of change also needs to be considered. Or we might want to look at how often am I only looking at change as an individual skill or behavior, and I'm missing these other quadrants. And so that is the value of in a world that is not going to slow down with change, is to really get clear on, do we need to look at all four of these, or is there one specific area of change that is most important, and to really challenge ourselves there. So love talking about the four quadrants of change, and there's so many different ways to apply this.